I've watched Dr. Phil's How to Escape a Bad Marriage Part 2, and unfortunately for me, there really isn't any help unless you're bleeding or bruised, or, your husband's beating you or hitting you. And what about women like me whose husbands don't do that because they're too smart? Yes, my husband does get angry, but in the past, he's punched walls, he dented our refrigerator, he punched doors, he hits things when he gets that angry. Now he has pushed me a couple of times over the past 12 years. And I say a couple of times because I only mean twice. Once was when I was pregnant with her first. And he just gave me a shove enough just so I kind of fell back into the wall, but I didn't fall on the ground or anything. And the second time was when the kids were in kindergarten or preschool, somewhere around then, which has been quite a few years ago, where he pushed me and I did fall on the ground, but it wasn't like hard or anything. I didn't get hurt, and I had reminded him about this um, recently, and he says that I punched him in the chest first, which provoked him, and I honestly don't remember doing that. It could have happened, I don't know, but whether or not that did happen, you should never push a pregnant woman. And my memory isn't that good anymore. But I did leave and get my own house for a short time. But I think that was before I was pregnant. And I ended up having to come back because the house I had was in the middle of a lease purchase, was full of roaches, and my car got stolen. And I ended up having to come back. Plus, there's more to it than that, but anyway, it's a shame I ever came back, but I did. But back to Dr. Phil's Marriage Part 2 on YouTube. Um, unless you're bloody or you're bruised or you have a witness, there's really not that much help out there. I mean, she called the hotline and got help and had to go to a shelter. And, I called that hotline. And, you know, sat in front of this woman. Eventually, calling the hotline eventually led to a meeting. And sat in front of this woman that just told me I had to be clever and get out. I knew that. I need help. She told me the same thing she told this other woman on the Dr. Phil. Get the Social Security cards and all that. That was already done. I've done that years ago. And I have one friend left. I said before I had no friends, but I have one friend whom I have had for the past 25 years. And I had told her at one point, if I ever call you and say a certain word, which was our code word, that meant that she needed to come over right away, that it was an emergency. And obviously I'm not going to say what that word is now, but just as a protection measure, not protection measure, but it doesn't have anything to do with this. But there really isn't any help for verbal and emotional abuse. I'm sure if my life depended on it, like I felt I was in immediate danger, I could just walk out the door and take the kids and go to the shelter. But I don't know what it's like, and I don't know how long I'll have to stay there, and how will I live, and I have no access to anything that I need. And the woman also told me they only give you $1,500 to get set up in a new place once you find a place. $1,500? That's great. But for somebody like me that can't have a job, what good is that? All the apartments I've looked at, the cheapest apartment I could find was like $500, and that's for like a studio for one person. The apartments I looked at that were 2-bedroom were almost as much as our mortgage. Then I looked at renting houses. Renting a house is also actually more than my mortgage, which I found very disturbing and surprising. And I can't make him leave the house that we live in currently because he isn't bleeding, punching me and bludgeoning me and all that kind of thing. Not only that, but it's in his name and not mine. So there isn't any help for somebody like me. What about that, Dr. Phil? You got any suggestions?